We're sitting in the garden near Syntagma, and tell me about what happened there with the big crisis in 2013.
What happened there? We got into the memorandum, and this is where it actually all really started.
From the Troika.
Exactly. The government started taking measurements and changing the laws in a way that was, you can't say that was 100% democratic. Sometimes they would change laws with an express procedure, so they could do it easily without having to get the voting of the 180 members of the parliament, but with less. And all these laws were actually making worse the social situation. So there would be laws to lower the pensions, to lower the expenses for schools, for universities, things that we had won through the years by having a social state at the extension that we could in Greece. So people started reacting to this and coming down to the streets. It was people that they might have not been down to the streets, out in the streets ever again.
Like not union organizers, not rank and file union.
This was the unique thing, because usually, yes, the unions are very, there are a few very powerful unions here that, when there is a strike or something, they're all here. They're very, very well organized. But at that point, it was any kind of person that might have not ever again been out. But it was a point that everyone felt that we had to react to what was happening.
But you've started it on a Facebook page, announcements? Was it initiated by young people?
It was, yes. I mean, the first day that people were down to the streets, I don't remember the date, but it was impressive, because you wouldn't think. Yes, it was on Facebook. It was some phone calls, among us or something. And we said, okay, we will go because probably no one else will. But it was, it started with, thousands of people. I mean, it was...
And they heard about it on the grapevine and on Facebook?
Yes,
but
this
probably
was
not
social
in the media.
No, the media, they wouldn't say it until, at least in the beginning, until it really became big. You wouldn't hear about it in the media, you wouldn't see it in the news, but you were down in Syntagma and it was a sea of people, thousands of people.
And more young than old, or just a mixture, or how would you characterize who was there?
Well, there were a lot of youngs, but it was impressive that except from them, you would see all ages. You would see people with their little children. You would see elder people. My mom went out after many years, out in the streets. I think you could see almost every part of the society at the square at that point.
And what was the difference between the people on the upper square by the Parliament building and the people in the lower square? There were like difference in politics or something.
At some point it started to be, yes, it started to be a differentiation, yes, between people, because everyone was there. But this doesn't mean that, there were no people that, there were people that believed in different parties and different politics. They were in different politic areas and spaces. So at some point, the upper part of the square was the place of the more right-winged people.
The anti-immigrant people. The Golden Dawn people?
Maybe not. Yes, there might be a few, circles of them as well. Maybe more of nationalists, I would say. People that
We don't
would
want
not be-
immigrants here.
maybe not that radical, but more. The nationalists here, they are okay. There are the radical ones that they're the Golden Dawn, and these are, for me, they're Nazis. It's a different thing. But there are also the nationalists that they really pride for their country. They are in a more in-between stage. They would not be, that radical, but they are more right-winged anyway. And then in the lower part of the square, it was a more left-winged people. And also in the square, there was an organization happened. So people got into groups and they started organizing their life, because it happened that for 2 months there were people every day and every hour in the square. So we started having a kitchen where we could give food to everyone, and food that people would bring from their houses actually. And there was also the media group and other groups that would organize the events in the square. And the most amazing thing that happened in the lower level of the square was the assembly, the gathering every...
General Assembly.
Exactly. The gathering every night at, 7 o'clock. People would gather together. They would have, you would have maybe two minutes to speak. Whoever wanted to speak would write his name on a paper. And it was amazing. You could hear everyone stating an opinion and trying to conclude to some texts about what we actually want from all this.
How do you do that when there's thousands of people? That's the question, right?
Yes, it's a bit utopic, but it was beautiful. Okay, not all thousands were interested in this kind of interaction and discussion, but it was a really big circle, bigger every night, of people, other that would speak every night, other that would just like to listen and try to understand what everyone thinks. It was nice. It was
What
nice
were
seeing
some of the
this.
common themes that people were passionate about speaking about?
I think it was more on how, as far as I can remember, it's been a while, but I think for me what is mostly in my mind is how we could change this country and change the mindset of the people, and try to make it a powerful, a producing country, not a country that everyone is waiting, from someone else to take action. But how we will be, active citizens on ourselves, and try to fix things. Because at that point the feeling was very intense, that we have been to a point that we cannot continue the way we are. We have to change. And the first thing you have to change is to change yourself, the way you act and the way you are as a citizen. And at that point I think that everyone had a very strong feeling a very strong feeling wanting to change themselves. It was an optimistic period actually.
And what came out of it? And do you see effects now?
One thing that came out of the whole thing is that many people got together. They formed groups and teams that...
Like neighborhood?
Yes, that are more... we have more solidarity after this. And especially at that time, people started, realizing that together they can work and, and change things and bring some results. But the truth is that because nothing, in the political scene, nothing changed. It is only.
Well, Syriza
being-
got elected, but that seems like they haven't made a. Is it the Troika's too powerful? Is that the problem? Because Syriza, how do you say Syriza?
Syriza.
Syriza. That it's a left group, but it's
It is
been
a
on
left
its
group.
knees.
Yes, and this is when they got the season, the period that they got their most, power, because they seem to be really in this direction, the direction of let's change things. This was their motto: get rid of the old Greece. I mean, let's do something new. So the younger people, especially, younger people of my generation, we were like, okay, yes, maybe there is something different from what we have been with the past.
There's hope.
Yes, this was the worst thing that happened, that we all got hope, and we then got a big kick that, it brings you even lower from when you started. You start from the low, you get some hope, you feel great, you say inside, I don't care if I don't have money, I don't care if I will have problems, I want to fight for it, and maybe not for me but for the next generations. I'm okay to to sacrifice some of my benefits for the next generations, and through this you get hope and you get energy. But when the people that were selling this hope, they got in power, it's unbelievable what they're doing now. It's worse than what anyone else has done.
And do you think that's because they are just powerless against the face of the European financial system? Or is it bad will? Or, I mean...
I really cannot explain it. I can't. For me, at the point, they are traders, of their whole nation and of what they were saying. It's unbelievable because when we had elections, I happened to be abroad. I would have voted for them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm abroad, I can't go to an embassy to vote, I felt bad. And now I am, oh my God, at least I don't
You're not
have
responsible.
this burden, because yes, I still cannot realize it from my side. I cannot believe what's happening. And that we have laws that are being voted, 3 days ago. Crazy laws.
So what, it raises taxes, it lowers pensions. What does the new law do?
Yes, we have some new taxation, of course. It lowers. They say that they won't lower the pensions, but it's actually written that they will be lowered. Yes, I think the taxes is the biggest issue, and then the social security. The hospitals and everything. These are in a very bad state at the point. They do not have funds, they do not have enough doctors.
And schools the same way? Public schools?
Public schools, they are very understaffed, the public schools.
Roughly, what's an average class size in, say, secondary school?
Secondary school, I think it's about 30 students. It's not too huge, but the issue is that we did have, a kind of a good educational system with good teachers and the university as well. But now teachers are not enough, so the students might, they might have math at 9, but if they might not have a teacher, so they miss the class.
Oh my goodness.
So yes, this happens, especially in the beginning of the school year. They might miss classes for 1 or 2 months.
Oh boy.
And when you disrespect that much all the educational system, when you lower the wages that much of your teachers, I mean, this is a basic thing you have to do. Take care of your children.
And are parents complaining? I mean, is there any kind of groundswell of protest?
It's crazy, but people are so sure after what happened that even if there is a call for a protest at this point, no one believes in it.
They say there's no hope.
Yes.
Oh, that's so sad.
So it's people feel hopeless. I mean, I feel hopeless. I can speak for everyone, but it is really difficult. The amount of money you have to pay for any type of taxes is a great percentage of the income of any of us.
Like roughly what percent do you pay?
Well, you do not get taxed. It used to be 9,000 euros per year. If you wouldn't get taxed. Now they lowered it to 7 and something, which is nothing actually. And after this you have 29%, if I'm not mistaken. But then you also we now will have 24% VAT to almost all the goods. So it's not only the direct tax you have, it's all the other taxation you have all around, that you don't understand. The gas tax will go 10% up. Anyway, since the beginning of the crisis, because the gas was very expensive, people started giving out their cars. And now it will be, even more. We started not having traffic. We laugh at it. We say that, okay, at least we don't have traffic.
That's one good little thing out of all this.
Yes. Well, there are some good things as well. Okay, we have to admit. I mean, for me, people that got, more together and more supportive to each other, this is a great winning, after all.
Have you been to neighborhood assemblies or neighborhood organizing?
Not that much, because it didn't happen to have something like this in my neighborhood. We had one that was organized by Syriza, actually, the local Syriza, neighborhood thing. And I went once, but it was very colored by the party, so I didn't like this. And there is nothing else, around me. Not every neighborhood has, assembly.
Sure. What do you see in terms of the creativity of making an alternative economy? Because it seems to me that's what's interesting, is when things are hard and people do free health clinics and direct farm sales to city people. So what do you see in terms of that kind of?
This has happened a lot, actually. And this is nice. So we have, some people have been more active, especially the younger people, and they have started several things that they can be like social enterprises, they call them.
What, like what?
They can be, for example, we have these farmers markets that they are more, no profit markets, for example. So the producer comes and no profit. The producer sells directly to the end consumer.
No middle person.
Yes, exactly. Because this is also an issue we have in Greece. We have too many middle persons in every sector. So they started organizing this, so it would be, a direct sale. And then, depending on the area and on what's happening, you can see, for example, there is this theater that was occupied, Embros Theater, and a group of people started, it was a closed theater, abandoned, and they entered, they started, with some rehearsals for a few days, but then they said, okay, we will continue, using it because it's a free space and we can have here actors or musicians to use the space to rehearse and then to show to the people, what they have done as their show or something. This has been great. I mean, having initiatives like this.
What about the garden that the people took over? They squatted the land. What's that place called?
in Exarchia, the park is called, το πάρκο.
Okay.
This was also amazing. Yes, I loved this. I mean, because it was, it was a parking lot in Exarchia, that is an area with very few green spaces and very few free spaces. And at some point they said, okay, let's make another, ugly cement building on it, and they started, digging. And this was an immediate reaction from the people around. It was, I can feel how it was. It was no more, it's something coming from the heart. And people just went there and never left.
They occupied it.
They did.
When did they start? Do you know what year?
I don't know, it was 2007, I think.
2007. A long time ago.
It is, because now it's a park. I mean,
Yeah.
if you go there...
I was there.
Yes, there were big trees and everything, and a small garden. Yes, sometimes, you just need to take action.
So did the city own that land, or who owned the city did? So the city didn't fight the occupation.
They did, but the issue is that you cannot put a bulldozer in the land if there are people there. there is this law, So you can't just go over the people. So as long as there were people, they couldn't do anything.
Wow.
And then there is another law that you're not allowed to cut trees if they are higher than 1.5 meters or something like this. So what they immediately do, the people there, was planting, trees and things and waiting there until they grew. So when they were on the right size, it was fine.
Brilliant. Mm-hmm. What about squats? Are there a lot in the city, and how does that work? Building squats.
There were a few. The most famous one, very, very recently, the police shut it down.
What was it called?
Amalias. Yes.
Amalias?
Amalias. Oh. Yes, I think. It will come.
Yeah, it'll come to you. And people, was it immigrants that squatted, or just?
No, this was more of the people of the anarchist space. But what we have now that is very new, about a month now, it's a squat of an old hotel that people actually occupied it to house immigrants there. And this is an issue. We have so many empty buildings that are sitting there in the center of Athens, and this just needed, some people to organize it, to clean the place, to have the immigrants in. There is always the other side. There is the owner of the building that didn't like this that much. So now there is this conflict among them. But at the end of the day, it was an abandoned building, and we had people that were sleeping in the streets and small children. So I'm not sure where the borders are exactly there. The biggest issue is that neither the government or the municipality or whoever could, from the state, didn't have a solution for the problem.
Of homelessness and the immigrants housing
Yes.
them.
Okay, it was a huge issue that we didn't expect. We weren't prepared for this. But we had people, little kids out in the streets. I mean,
Mostly immigrants?
yes, we had the great wave from people from Syria coming, the past months. And the interesting thing is that these people, they don't want to stay in Greece.
They want to go to Germany.
Yes. They have nothing to do here. There are no jobs, there's nothing, They don't even consider Greece as Europe sometimes. They're here and they say, we want to go to Europe.
Oh.
But they are stuck here because the borders are closed after us. And they really don't know what to do.
So are young people mobilizing around that, around finding a home for immigrants, or there's no way?
In a very small percentage, I think, people. Okay, there are some people that are taking immigrants in their houses for a period of time, which is great. But no, I mean, this is not such a... We're not at this state yet, I'm afraid, of that much solidarity. Depends on the person as well.
What did you find about the role of women in the demonstrations? Because usually what I hear internationally is that men talk more, talk longer. That wasn't an issue.
I don't think this is an issue in Greece. No. For me, it was half 50-50. I mean, yes, women were present everywhere and did have a voice.
A lot of the movements say that they're horizontal, leaderless. We don't look to leaders, but it seems to me it's really hard to get something done, to take action, if there isn't someone organizing it. So what did you find in terms of...
This is true, because the horizontal thing works in the beginning. It's very nice. But when you really have to come down to results, to bring results, then someone has to have at least a responsibility. Maybe not a leader exactly, but someone has to be, responsible for bringing back a result, and maybe organizing the rest of his team. I mean, you usually need someone to be a leader.
So let's say someone was doing the food area where they feed people. Did you see leadership, or people just kind of all...
For Syntagma, for the square, you mean? I was in the food area, actually. Okay, there were, maybe not leadership, but there have been people that were more active and more present. It could be 4 or 5 people. These people would know how the whole thing operates, and they would help with, organizing the shifts or letting the people know through the internet what is needed, so what we needed to be brought there. And it also has to do with how much organizational skills you have.
And time.
And time, yes.
Because it takes time to do all that, to meet.
For me, I didn't have, the whole time in the world, but I could help with the organizing, so I could make some forms and things in the computer, just, some Excel sheets, so we would know where we stand in terms of quantities and what we had there. So yes, one way or the other, there are a few people that are ahead, that are in front, and there are people that they might not be that much aware of what is needed, so they need someone to tell them what to do. They need
they're
a leader.
new or just coming in, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, not everyone can be on the same level all the times.
So do you have hope, or are you hopeless?
I'm in a very strange situation, because I have started a business exactly in the middle of the crisis, because I got unemployed after many years in a big company. So I thought, okay, I have to do something. Let's start with what I have been dreaming of since ages. I will start this. It's the time to do it. It had to do with tourism. I was extremely lucky, me and my colleagues, because if there is one sector that is going well, this is tourism. If my dream was anything else but that, I would be in a very different state right now. So, thankfully, I do have hope, because I see the business going well, but I have totally lost my hope for the country. I mean, I'm in a very, very bad state in this field. I don't believe at all in the politicians anymore, to anyone. and sometimes it's really tough to fight for a business, because we're working 12, 14 hours a day. Yes, we haven't gotten any vacation for 2 years. It's going really well, but at the end of the day, we have €0 in our pocket. It's crazy. It's true. It's true. It's amazing how this happens. I mean, we feel, sometimes, we decided to open this business in Greece because we really wanted to help the country. We said we will not do what everyone else does. Open the business elsewhere, do an offshore, do whatever, send the money abroad, and just, take advantage of the resources here, of the sea and the sun and everything, but, draining the country for money. We said we will stay here. But yes, we have to pay this decision with our lives, because we really have very difficult lives.
If someone wanted
personally
to be part of use your services, where would they look on the internet?
They will find us on AthensInsiders.com. This is our website. We are very happy to have people with us. We love this. And it's also a great way for us to travel, because we can't travel that much anymore. But getting to know people from other countries is actually like traveling a bit. So.
Right. What do you see any generational differences, like young people who are teens and university students now? Do you see any difference in Gen Y and X? Mm-hmm. I mean Z.
Yes, I'm quite happy because I see that there are people of our generation or a bit younger that they would really like to change things. You wouldn't see this before in Greece, because people were used to a situation where you could do almost everything with a little bit of money under the table. You could avoid, you could avoid the law. And this is an attitude of the older generations. Like, whatever, it's everything for yourself, everything for you. And whatever most you can take out of the commonwealth. People would try to take as much as they could from the state in terms of money or whatever type, just take, because people would think that the state is something else, the public money, for example. They are like, we will take money from the public. They don't have in mind that this is your money. This is a crazy mentality. And this had been, the mentality of most of Greeks, of the older generations. And I see that it does change, but it's, we have a long way to go for that.
So do you think young people feel as hopeless as you do, or do you see signs that they're organizing? Like, what about the Syriza youth wing? Do you ever hear about them taking a stand?
I don't think that they used to be, but I haven't heard what they have to say in the past. I don't know, 1.5, 2 years, to be honest. So I'm not sure exactly where they are at. The problem is with the younger generations that the unemployment rate is huge. And
is it still over 50%?
Yes, for the younger, maybe it's at 48 at the point it goes like this. But when you have just finished your studies and you are ready and full of energy and full of passion, and you just fall on a wall because there is nothing you can do, and especially if you're a scientist, or the only solution you have is
to go abroad,
stay at home or go abroad. then what hope can you have? What drive can you have? You just, pack your suitcase and go, like thousands of people have done. We had a great immigrational wave. And the issue is that we're very well educated. The mentality of almost every family is to get their kid in the university. So we have a great educational level, university education.
But no jobs.
No jobs. It's crazy.
And I think it's the same in a lot of Middle Eastern countries, and Spain and Portugal,
Yes.
and some in Italy. So it's not just a Greek problem.
No, however, I think that for us, because we're a small country, one of the biggest problems we have is that we're not producing much. We do not have productive units like big factories, and we need to import most of the things that we need, most of the goods, and this is a drain of the country's money. I think that we need, to change this from the core, to start producing more if we could and be more competitive. But then there is a whole big discussion about the European Union and how we cannot be competitive because, anyway, long story, but you can have, the same. When you have a union, a monetary union, you either have to play with the same rules for every country or not. You cannot be half united, half not united.
Right.
So it doesn't make it easy for us at all.
Is tourism the number one?
Number two.
What's number one?
Shipping.
Ah.
But shipping doesn't bring anything back because it's not taxed.
Why?
Because if they tax the ship owners
Will
will
go
just
elsewhere.
go under Panama flag. That's it.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. At least, when they are under Greek flag, they have some regulation of, having some Greek people working, a specific percentage. Things like that, but it's nothing, huge.
There seems to be a strong anarchist current in Greece, and what I'm not clear, they want to get rid of the state and government, but then we just have little local fiefdoms, or what? How does this work in practice?
I don't think it works in practice, but it's very nice to dream about it. I'm not sure if it can work. Not in this country, at least. I don't want to be too pessimistic. I would love to live in a system like this, a more anarchistic system. But people here still are very, very egoistic in a way.
Well, human beings are.
Yes. Maybe I'm very critical towards us, towards the Greeks.
When you've gone to and heard anarchist speakers, their focus is on creating little utopias in a local level, kind of focusing local.
I think so. I don't think that anyone has. I don't want to. In a local level or in a small level, this can be done, but it's the same with the assembly in Syntagma. It was great for up to 2,000 people, but after that it became very difficult, Then they started having more smaller ones and trying to combine what they had come up to, but I'm not sure if it can work. I would love it if it worked.
And a lot of the role models that people give are like the Zapatistas in southern Mexico, but they're small and they're little snails. They call them, the little local areas. They're small. And Rojava, have you heard of them? The Kurds in northern Syria. They're small. So I don't know if we have any models. We don't. Can you of anarchy working on a large scale?
I don't. Anarchy especially, no, I don't think so.
So what's the appeal? I mean, why would someone like this conference we're going to go to tonight is put on by anarchists, right?
Yes, you can say this. They're more they don't call themselves anarchists, mostly anti-authoritarian. Okay, maybe it's a more soft term. But yes, I guess the bottom line is the same, and it's the bottom meaning. Yes, what we will see tonight is very nice, because we will see a lot of groups that have come together and are trying to bring a specific result or do something. So it's nice, but even them, they are not. Each group works on its own. Okay, some are doing some collisions, but it's not like everyone is, smaller
Coordinated.
groups. Yes, to coordinate for a greater cause or something like this. Everyone is at his own.
Do you know who organized the conference?
Yes, this is it's a magazine actually. It's called Babylonia, and this is a world, a global organization. It happens in many countries. It's called B-Fest, but the one here is organized every year or every 2 years, depending from this magazine.
And what does B stand for?
B stand for, I don't know.
They have B businesses that are like, green and socially pure. I wonder if it comes from that.
I will check this. I always, although it's a global thing, I always thought that the B was from the first letter of the magazine. That is Babylon, Babylonia. But
that makes sense.
But we can check this out further. Yes.
Is there anything else that you think people should understand about making change in Greece? What I wanted to ask you about the finance minister who left and started a European organization for change. Any hope with him? How do you pronounce his name?
Varoufakis.
Why are you smiling?
Why am I smiling? Because I really don't know what to believe about him. I really loved his attitude at some points.
Get on his motorcycle, yes. No tie, his wife on the back.
I wish he could, do what he was dreaming of doing. I think that he had some kind of a dream, but it couldn't work in this society, in this situation. I mean, unfortunately. Then he was very much disrespected by the media, which I believe it wasn't fair, because he's a great, scientist and great at what he does.
They like he's foolish or...
Yes, at some point they just demolished him. I don't know his image. They were just making fun of him, and this was, I think it was pretty unfair actually. He might have done, maybe he didn't do the correct moves, or I don't know, maybe he could have done things differently. But
or maybe he spoke the truth.
As well, so yes, I also, who has been very quite mocked, he was Zoe Konstantopoulou, the former president of the parliament. She was the president when Syriza got elected in the first time, and she also was very strict, and for me she did spoke the truth, but people didn't like it at all. And she got as well very disrespected.
Do you know, have you heard people talk about the European organization he's forming that's progressive and wants change and to help people get out under the thumb of the financiers?
Yeah, I don't think anyone really...
They're not talking about it.
Hey, I see it on Twitter. The things like this, you see them on Twitter a lot. But no, people, in our everyday life, I don't think I have heard anyone talking about it.
They had, do you know Blockadia? Have you heard of them?
Mm-mm.
They're global, and they're an activist group, and somehow he was linked with them when they had a big meeting in Berlin. I don't know. But anyway, it's interesting that people aren't talking about what he's doing now.
No. I think that the media did such a great work with his image that people are like, I don't know, 90% of the people I think that he's the black sheep and
Well, he was, because or maybe he was the white sheep, and
maybe, but if you look from the other side, yes, he was a white sheep.
And what about Cyprus? Why do you think he hasn't fought harder? Is it because he can't, or his?
My spontaneous answer would be that he is the greatest trader of all. I mean, the trader of his country, and the one who, all the previous ones had sold a piece of Greece, and he just finished the job, Now everything is sold. They're giving away all the resources, whatever we have.
Like the beaches.
Yes, they're trying. The good thing is that we have some laws that don't allow to do anything that you want.
Privatize the.
But they're trying to overcome everything, And Greece has been a little paradise for too long, and they're trying to. I don't know what they're trying to do, really.
Make money and suck it out and leave.
It's unbelievable. We had been very lucky up to today because we have kept, the beaches, for example, that you said. Our beaches are clean of big concrete buildings that are right on the shore. The beaches are free for everyone to enjoy, and the natural environment is still amazing. And I'm not sure at all what our kids will find, or our grandkids here. It has been a little piece of jewelry, Greece. I'm not sure where we're going at.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, very sad for all this, and yes.
It is sad. And it's not. So, tell me your name.
Okay. My name is Anthea.
And your age?
I am 36.
And tell me, we're sitting in the garden near Syntagma, and tell me about what happened there with the big crisis in 2013.
What happened there? We got into the memorandum, and this is where it actually all really started.
From the Troika.
Exactly. The government started taking measurements and changing the laws.